Hi, welcome to my Scrappin space. I'm Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator located in Southwest Wisconsin. And it's Man Card Monday in my Scrappin space, and I'm here to share a card with you I made with a brand new stamp set. So here's our card. It says you're how old in dog years you'd be, and then on the other side, happy birthday, another wrinkle wiser. This is a new stamp set. It's an online exclusive, and I couldn't wait to play with it. So for this card, I used the dog image, the you're how old, and happy birthday, another wrinkle wiser. But you wouldn't need to use the dog. Notice the wine and cheese here? For your wine-loving friends, you could use aging fine, like cheese and wine. There's also a birthday card, and our birthday card. Let's try birthday cake for your birthday card. And there's a sentiment that says, at least you're not as old as you'll be next year, and happy birthday. Now back to me. So this is a fun, kind of snarky stamp set, and we all have friends that this would be a perfect card for. In addition to the stamp set, I used a paper pack called Timeless Plaid. Like, can't go wrong with plaid, can you? And I grabbed two pieces, one that was pecan pie, and one that was Misty Moonlight. They're different colors, but they're the same plaid. I'm gonna hold them up for you to see. So that kind of helps everything pull together too. I started with a pecan pie card base. Let's get some things out of the way so we have room to work here. I just don't want to put the stamp set away. I think it's so fun. And I started with a pecan pie card base. And because I wanted to use two different plaids, the other color I introduced was the Misty Moonlight. I decided that once I picked my two plaids. And so I have a Misty Moonlight matte. And a matte is a standard 4 by 5 1/4, but you can find all the numbers, measurements, directions, supply list at my Scrappin with Joni blog. Once I had cut my matte, I also cut out this circle, because it's going to be covered up anyway, so I might as well grab it from there. I like a really narrow mat, so my paper, the top plaid, is just 1/8 of an inch smaller than my mat. Now, if you don't like to cut 1/8 of an inch, and I have a number of friends who don't, go down 1/4 of an inch. You'll just see more of your mat. We're going to be embossing this mat to add a little texture to it, so we want to choose carefully what adhesive we're going to use. I'm going to use for this tear and tape, because if I use, which you'll see me use a lot, our great multi-purpose glue, once I put it through the pressure of a cut and emboss machine, that glue may go places I don't want it to go. Now the other thing to remember though is I now have a hole in the middle here. So if I do my usual and run adhesive down the center, I'm going to have a mess. Well, less of a mess than just a problem, because that adhesive is going to stick to my embossing folder. Now I'm sure that never happens to you, but it happened to me when I made the sample card. So I'll tell you how I handled it. You can't see it now, but I just grabbed a little Post-it note because I had adhesive here and I didn't want to get it on my embossing folder, and stuck it there and then ran it through. Now I will tell you that that little Post-it note's not going anywhere. It's now part of that other card. But if that happens to you, that's a quick and easy way to handle it. The embossing folder I chose to use is Forever Plaid 3D, meaning it's going to give me a thick impression. When I get an embossing folder, I add the name and the plates, meaning what am I going to use for my cut and emboss? I'm going to use plates 1 and 4. So let's get our cut and emboss machine out. Pull down the sides. You always use plate 1, whether you're die cutting or embossing. And plate 1 on the cut and emboss system is that really thick one. That goes first. Then we're going to put this one. Because there's only 2 plates and you always have a plate on top, I know this has to go next. I'm going to line it up with the black line at the bottom. I'm going to make sure the Stampin' Up logo's on top and fold first. Then let me see if I can move this a little closer. There we go. And then plate 4 is the gray plate in your system. Like that one, and that's going on top. And then we're just going to roll it forward. Now I'm working in a somewhat tight quarters here, so I just move my cut and emboss back so I don't hit my camera stand when I roll this through. And it rolls really easily. If it doesn't roll easily, stop and check. Maybe they're not straight. Maybe you have the wrong sandwich in there. There we go. That's done. And we went from a nice plaid to something that has a little texture. It was easy to do, adds a lot of interest, nothing to it. I'm going to attach this to my pecan pie card base. Look how well those colors play together. Now, as you can see, this is a heavily embossed surface. So this is when we want to pull out the multi-purpose glue. If I went to my all-time favorite Seal Plus tape runner, it could just kind of, fly over the top of all this embossing and it's not going to get anywhere. And so we want to make sure that that's going to hold down. All right, this is going to get lined up here. I'm going to start by making sure my card base is straight. Then I'm more likely to get the card front on straight. Though honestly, with this card, everyone's going to be smiling at that goofy looking dog, and no one's going to really notice if you're not quite straight. There we go. Again, heavily embossed. So I'm going to turn it over once I have it in place and grab a bone folder and just do that. There we go. So that's a good start. Now let's talk about this adorable little dog. I know many of you, perhaps most of you, would stop and color this dog. Those of you who know me know that's not going to happen with me. But I did want to add a touch of color. So I focused on the hat. And I have here 2 blends. Our blends come in a combo pack, a light and a dark. And I have Misty Moonlight Dark and Misty Moonlight Light. Now, I knew I wanted this fun little, what do we call that? Topper for the hat to be the light color. So I started at the top and worked my way down because I wanted the stripes to go alternate. I'm starting, there's a brush end and a bullet or marker end. I'm going to use the brush end. This is about as much coloring as I do on any card. And I'm just filling in. And if I have to color, blends are always going to be my choice. They just are a little easier for me. And you can't see that I'm not great at coloring because they blend, so you don't see my marks. Then this is a striped hat. So I am just alternating colors so that you can see the stripes. And as you can tell, even I can handle this much coloring. Now I know some of you would do a beautiful job and you'd color that little pup and you'd shadow, put in some shadows and shade it, and you'd make sure its tongue was a different color. Good for you. We need people like you. I'm not one of those people. Now I'm going to punch this, and I grabbed the 2 3/8 inch punch. I stamped this with black Memento because that plays well with our blends. And then I'm just going to kind of get the dog in the center. Not there. Now, I did not give myself a lot of place to be able to hold on to this as I punch. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just grabbing a little Post-it note so I have a handle. And now we're going to do this. Then I can, and when I think I have it in the right place, I hold it in place, but I don't punch it. And notice I'm punching from the back. There we go. Done. All right, and then I'm going to close it and push this tab again because see how flat it's going to sit on my shelf now? All right, that is done. This one, I'm going to use dimensionals behind it to pop it up. And dimensionals are just little pieces of foam. Yes, there's a bit of the Post-it note back there. If it bothers you, take it off. It doesn't bother me. It's not going to really add any weight to your card. And notice how I'm really putting these close to the inside. That's because we're also going to put dimensionals on the back of here. And I'm going to put those on the outside. You can use a double layer of dimensionals as long as one is not under the other. So I don't have a double thickness of dimensionals because when I push down, they'll all be the same thickness. So you just don't want to layer them top and bottom, like top on top of each other rather. There we go. This is going to go there. And I'm peeling off the backs, and an easier way than my fingers is just to grab my take your pick tool and pull them up like that. There we go. All right. I don't know which of my brothers this card is going to. You know, I have two of them. Maybe they both have birthdays in the same month. Maybe both of them will get the card. There we go. And then at the bottom, I have a tag that says, "You're how old? And dog years you'd be." And I started with that and felt like it just needed something else. So I have, as I dig in my envelope, she says, "With hope." Oh yes, I do. They just fell out. In addition to die cutting this label, I also die cut this one. And I'm going to cut it in half. And initially my thought was that I would put some on each side, but I didn't like that look. So I'm just going to put it on one side, like so. Doesn't need to be a lot, but enough that you can see that blue plaid, just like that. Then we're going to turn it over. There we go. And just kind of line it up so it's straight. I'm going to grab just a touch of tear and tape to hold it in place. Partly just to keep it straight. There we go. Before I attach the dimensionals, let's double check that it's still going to fit. It will. Okay, so now we're back to dimensionals. That's attached. We just need to attach this one. And we're going to go right across. There we go. And that's another way that will kind of help hold it in place. And here. Take off the back of those. There we go. And they're going in my little jar here so they don't wander around my house. They're so staticky. They stick to your clothes. They stick to everything. And this goes right across here. Now, it's a masculine card, and I didn't want to grab any kind of like fancy bling, but I did grab pecan pie and clear ribbon adhesive back dots. And I have the pecan pie dots here, and I'm going to add them to our dog. We're not really pet people here, so I'm thinking this is a pug, but I don't really know. But I think it's funny, and I like that the dog has wrinkles. And we're just, there we go. I'm talking, not paying attention to what I'm doing here. I'm sure that never happens to you. There. And I'm doing my usual rule for embellishments. Odd number, 3, in a roughly triangular shape. There we go. This would have been a perfect birthday card for my Uncle Bob. There. Now, I don't have all the same size, and that is bothering me. I was going to say it doesn't bother me, but it does. So we're going to grab this one that's the same size and pop it up here. And roughly triangular really just means we don't want this to live on my glass mat. So we're going to pick it up. Yep. Roughly triangular just means that one of my embellishments is by itself, and the other one, wow, this really wants to live on my glass mat, doesn't it? Sorry, guys. Bit of a distraction here. And you know, I never have this trouble when the camera's not on. None of them want to hang out in my glass mat then. There we go. All right. As I was saying, roughly triangular means one is hanging out by itself and the other two are together. Okay, that's a pretty cute card. Let's talk about the inside. So I stamped on the inside, happy birthday, another wrinkle wiser. That's a great saying for a birthday card, especially if you're sending it to your brother. And I'm going to bring in some of the paper from the front. Now you would have enough. You could choose if you want to do pecan pie or Misty Moonlight. I just happened to grab the Misty Moonlight. And that's going to go across here, like so. I'm going to make sure it's at the top, just like that. Then we're going to trim. I have a lot longer piece than I need, but I have lots more days that my hands give me trouble than days they don't. And so that extra length kind of serves as a handle so I can hold on to it. And then this is going on the inside. There we go. Now the trouble with sending these cards to my brothers are, they then have an opportunity to remind me that I'm still older than them, regardless of how many birthdays they have. But that's okay. Then we're not going to send this fun card in a naked envelope, are we? No, of course we're not. So we're going to take a 2 1/4 by 6 inch piece, fold the envelope flap back. Now there's lots of ways to make sure you don't send a card in a naked envelope, and I have just a video just on envelopes on my Scrappin with Joni YouTube channel if you're looking for something to do besides attaching paper to the flap. I could stamp that handsome little dog. Another thing you could do with your envelope is emboss it. You could use the same embossing folder that we used on the front of this card. Whatever you do in your envelope, you want it to kind of connect to your card. So you don't want to use paper that doesn't match with what's on your card, or some other kind of thing. And a lot of people wouldn't notice. But the point of decorating the envelope is to let someone know there's something special in the envelope and to kind of give a sneak peek preview. Okay, so now we've glued that envelope flap on. We're just going to trim it. And I'm using the envelope flap as my guide all the way around. And there you have it. Easy peasy. Envelope flap decorated. There's a birthday card ready to mail to one of my brothers. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it more than you know. If you liked what you saw, please share it with your crafty friends. Until next time, take care and keep crafting. It's good for you.